Could a potential trade for Tim Hardaway Jr. benefit the Washington Wizards, and how? And Alex Sarr refused to work out for the Atlanta Hawks, but they hold all the cards. I'm just saying. Next on Locked On Wizards.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, people? It's your boy Brandon Scott again, and I appreciate you guys making Locked On Wizards your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. And tonight's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As the playoffs wind down, the sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So look, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. All right, everybody. Tim Hardaway Jr. to DC. Could it happen? And how would it benefit the Wizards? Alex Sarr refuses to work out for the Atlanta Hawks, but the Atlanta Hawks hold all the cards. So if they still indeed draft Alex Sarr, what other prospects would I be looking at the number 2 overall pick? And there's been some recent additions to the coaching staff, so we're going to talk about that at the end. But let's dig right back. Let's dig into it. Tim Hardaway to DC. Now, there was a report that the Wizards were on top of the list of teams that could potentially trade for Tim Hardaway Jr. from the Dallas Mavericks. So, could the Wizards potentially trade for Tim Hardaway Jr. and how would it benefit us and what kind of package would it take to acquire him? Okay, so Tim Hardaway Jr. Let's take a look at his contract real quick. Now, he would be an expiring contract at the age 32 season of the 2024-25 regular season. He would be making $16.1 million. So he would be an expiring contract. So to me, that's kind of a plus because you have a guy that you're not going to have to be linked to long term. Because obviously, if you look at the timeline of the Washington Wizards, with us being a rebuilding team, he doesn't fit the timeline. But let's take a look at some other factors real quick. Now, looking at the Dallas Mavericks real quick and their pick situation, they hold the 58th overall pick, which is in the second round this year's draft, and that's the only draft pick they have. So if we were trying to get draft capital away from Dallas, taking on Tim Hardaway Jr., what draft picks would be available? Now, looking at the draft picks for the Dallas Mavericks, they have their own 2025 first-round pick. They also have the Toronto Raptors' second-round pick for 2025. They also own their first-round pick for 2026, but then 2027, they traded all the picks away. So after that, they hold two second-round picks in the 2028 NBA draft, and one previously belonged to Miami, and the other one is Charlotte or the Los Angeles Clippers. So what kind of package could we float to the Dallas Mavericks to obtain Tim Hardaway Jr.? No, I guess before we even get into that, would I even entertain a move for Tim Hardaway Jr.? Where would we play him? What kind of minutes would be allotted? Well, again, if you look at the current roster construction of the Washington Wizards, we could add it. We could definitely add, and we definitely need another shooter. Now, Landry Shamet is a trade candidate right now, and if you look at his contract, he has 2 years, and yeah, both years are unguaranteed, but he's got 2 years nevertheless. And he could. And the Dallas Mavericks is a team that is looking at Landry Shamet, so that's what I'm saying. Any potential move, I would definitely look at flipping Landry Shamet to Dallas. Now, would I want to make the move? It really depends what we get, right? If we get draft capital, or that would be a reason that I will make a move for Tim Hardaway Jr. Now, am I beating on the door to get Tim Hardaway Jr.? No. But with him being an expiring contract, if it's tied to a first-round pick, I would definitely entertain that deal. Now, if it's just one-on-one, kind of like the Alex Caruso and Josh Giddey trade, one-on-one player for player, I don't see where Tim Hardaway Jr. really moves the needle for the Washington Wizards. I'm gonna say no if it's player on player. Now, if he's attached to a first round pick, and like I said, looking at the Dallas Mavericks in their NBA draft pick situation, I mean, if they're willing to give up the 2025 first round pick, then I'm gonna say yes, you make that move. You definitely make that move because he's a candidate that we can flip at the deadline. Obviously he's not part of the long term vision of the Washington Wizards in their front office. So he would definitely be a guy that I would try to flip at the deadline. But again, if he comes with the 2025 first round pick, you make that move, especially for Landry Shamet, because again, I do like Landry Shamet, and he's shown that he can be that sniper that we need, and he's very athletic, but he's a movable commodity. Everybody on this team is tradable. The front office organization does like Corey Kispert and Denny Avdia, but everybody's tradable except for Bilal Coulibaly. Bilal is the one untouchable player on this roster. So, we'll see. Because if we do acquire Tim Hardaway Jr., he's a guy that you can flip at the deadline and get value back and get further value back. And if he's attached to a first round pick, you make that move. Now, looking at in a potential deal, would they be willing to give up a first round pick for a guy like Landry Shamet? And again, nothing against Landry Shamet. I think he's definitely an asset on the second unit for a team that has aspirations for, contending, which the Dallas Mavericks have the aspiration. They could definitely use another shooter on the second unit, in my opinion. And it's been rumored that they've been trying to move on from Tim Hardaway Jr. for some time now. So that's where I'm at, guys. If we make a move for Tim Hardaway Jr., again, I'm not really knocking down the door for Tim Hardaway Jr. to come to DC. And it's nothing against him personally as a player. He doesn't fit the timeline. We need to get rid of a lot of the vets we have on the team because it needs to be a youth movement in DC. And we need a lot of the minutes towards the young pieces that we have. Not only Denny Avdia, Corey Kispert, Bilal Coulibaly, and we'll see about Johnny Davis. But with this draft coming up, with us holding 2 first-round picks in the second overall and the 26th overall, and having the 51st overall in the second round, and the capability to trade back into the lottery, looking at potential moves like 13 for Sacramento and a potential Kyle Kuzma trade, you very well could add 2 or 3 to 4 young players in this draft. So it definitely has to be a youth movement in DC, and you have to look to move most of these vets that we have because, again, we covered this the last episode, but, Tyus Jones, he's a candidate for a sign and trade because he is an unrestricted free agent this offseason. The Wizards are going to try to get some kind of assets back for Tyus Jones. Now, what's the best time? Well, when was the best time to move him? It was probably at the deadline this previous season, but, the thing right now is they have to try to get some assets back for Tyus Jones, but he very well could walk for nothing, and that's a likelihood that look, a lot of Wizards fans are going to have to accept that we're probably going to let Tyus Jones walk for free now. But I still think that they're going to definitely look at the option of a sign and trade for Tyus Jones. But Landry Shamet is a guy who's been rumored to be on the move, is a potential trade candidate, and if you're looking at Richaun Holmes. He's not going anywhere for at least a year because the reports are he's going to enact his player option for $12.9 million, which is a total that he was going to get on the open market. So I get it from his standpoint. But Richaun Holmes, again, just like Marvin Bagley III, is a guy that could be flipped at the deadline. So getting back to Tim Hardaway Jr., and should we make the move to get him? If it's attached to a first-round pick, yes. If it's not, no. You don't make that move because, yes, he's an aspiring contract, but if we need another shooter, we might as well go ahead and we have Shamet. So, and to me, Shamet is a guy who can definitely be that sniper for us. They kind of help out Corey Kispert and other guys on the outside, man. But we're going to take a look at his stat line real quick for Tim Hardaway Jr. And could he help if we make that move? So looking at his stat line from this previous season, he averaged 14.4 points a game. He shot 35% from 3. And he shot, let me look, I'm trying to find his field goal percentage. Come on now. All right, 40% from field goal range. So he's a guy who can definitely help us in the shooting department. And, he's an aspiring contract. So you're not going to be linked to him long term. He's an aspiring contract. So we're not going to have to hold him for more than 1 year. And again, you can flip him at the deadline, kind of in the same mode as Richaun Holmes and Marvin Bagley III, which I think that is definitely the plan going forward, that with Marvin Bagley III and Richaun Holmes, and especially Tim Hardaway Jr., if we indeed acquire him, they're all pieces to move at the deadline and grab more picks because, again, the Washington Wizards are modeling their rebuild on Oklahoma City, which is acquiring all the draft capital you can and acquiring young players that are versatile. If you look at Oklahoma City, they have a lot of versatility in their lineup, on their roster. And Sam Presti's been known as a guy who knows how to accumulate draft picks. And that's what they're trying to do in DC, accumulate draft picks for the future, for to acquire young talent or to use as leverage in any potential trades. So when we get to that point where we want to add pieces for, when we get into contention or become a playoff team, you can utilize those draft picks, later on as draft capital, or as trade capital to pick up one or two pieces to help this team, help this young core out when it is indeed time for this team to start playing for contention. So, like I said, the model is OKC, acquiring picks, acquiring young players. And so, looking at Tim Hardaway Jr., I make that move, guys, if he's attached to a first round pick. Now, if it's player for player between him and Landry Shamet, I'm not making that move. Now, Dallas could be the team to jump in front of the Sacramento Kings, and maybe because we were this close to trading Kyle Kuzma to the Dallas Mavericks this last trade deadline, and we instead sent Daniel Gafford. So they could reignite talks, maybe Kyle Kuzma, because the Dallas Mavericks, if you look at the NBA Finals, they're a team that has a lot of talent. Luka Doncic, to me, I know he gets hit on for his lack of defense, but he's definitely a top tier player in the NBA. And looking at Kyrie, a lot of people have been on him over the years, but Kyrie has proven that in the right environment, in the right system, with the right coaching, with him, especially with him being a vet, man, he can produce. And he's always been, and production's never been an issue with Kyrie. It's just, we all know that, I'm not going to get into it with Kyrie, but he found the right spot that knows how to get the best out of it, in my opinion. It definitely wasn't Brooklyn. And, Boston, we ain't going to talk about that. So, Dallas could definitely use another scorer. And Kyle Kuzma is a guy who 20 plus a game can definitely be a good scorer for the Dallas Mavericks and hopefully help them push over the top in a really, really tough Western Conference. But getting back to Tim Hardaway Jr., my decision, everybody, is if he's attached to a first round pick, yes, you make that move. If he's not, I'm staying away from that move. I don't think it's necessary. I think that we could find a shooter in Landry Shamet or in this year's draft. So we're going to look forward real quick. Alex Sarr refused his workout with the Atlanta Hawks, but does that mean that he's not necessarily going to Atlanta? And what picks what prospects would I look at number 2 if indeed the Atlanta Hawks take Alex Sarr with the second overall pick? But before we do, tonight's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you always find exactly what you're looking for. And with the eBay Guarantee Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guarantee Fit only available to U.S. customers. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day long? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news. Streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. All right, let's get back into it, everybody. So next subject at hand is Alex Sarr, the guy that the likelihood is definitely going to be available at number 2 overall. He refused to work out with the Atlanta Hawks, but does that necessarily mean they won't take him? And what prospects would I be looking at with the second overall pick if we miss out on Alex Sarr? So again, reports came out that Alex Sarr did refuse to work out for the Atlanta Hawks. Now, would that mean that they're necessarily not going to draft him? We'll see it. A lot of smoke and mirrors going on right now with the number 1 overall pick, Atlanta Hawks, whether they pick Reece Shea, whether they pick Alex Sarr, whether they pick Donovan Clingan, whether they trade back with a team like the San Antonio Spurs for the 4th and the 8th overall pick in the first round. A lot of capabilities with the Atlanta Hawks, but I'll say this. They've been linked to Donovan Clingan and Zachary Reece Shea, but they do like Alex Sarr. Now, is it a big deal that he refused to work out? To a certain degree, yes. That could be the fact that it could kind of push him to another prospect because you want a guy who wants to play in your city. I mean, they could very well go out and still draft him. And I think that, Alex Sarr, a young man, he definitely wants to play in the NBA. He's going to play. He may not be happy, may not be the destination he wants, but that's pretty much the process for 99% of all prospects, right? Very rarely do you go where you want to go. And very rarely do you have the type of clout to kind of hold back from going somewhere. Looking at Eli Manning, when he got drafted by the San Diego Chargers at the time, he refused and ended up getting sent to the New York Giants, and then history as you know, he did well in New York. So is he pulling an Eli Manning? We'll see. Because he did flat out refuse to work out for the Atlanta Hawks. But does that mean that they don't draft him? I don't think so. I think they hold all the cards, and they know that, one, the Washington Wizards really like Alex Sarr. They know that he's a favorite of the fan base. So they have all the leverage. So they very well could still draft Alex Sarr. So if they draft Alex Sarr, who would I pick with the number 2 overall pick? And there's a couple guys I'm looking at. Number 1, the 7'3", 280-pound center out of the University of Connecticut, Donovan Clingan. Look, since Gortat and 1 year of Dwight Howard, we haven't had a legitimate rim protector in DC for a long time since then. 7'3", 280 pounds. He has the body to play in the NBA. Yeah, there's other factors like, as a rim protector, yes, he fits that mold. Now, what are some concerns? Obviously, with his team, was number 1 in pace last year, and it's pretty much going to be the same MO this year, is pick up the pace, push the pace, become a faster team in transition. Would Donovan Clingan be able to hang in transition with a fast team led by, point guard Jordan Poole? We'll see. That's one question mark. His offensive output, right? His 3-point shot, he has been working on. You saw that at the NBA draft combine. His 3-point shot in mid-range are a couple areas that he's definitely working on. The biggest thing with the Wizards is this is a team who's going into year 2 of a rebuild. It's a developing team. It's a rebuilding team. So you can still, develop those parts of the game. Right now, we need a rim protector. We need a legitimate 7-foot guy in there who's a rim protector. Now, I get it. Some of you are going to say, oh, well, you got Tristan Vucevic. Yeah, and you're 100% right. Tristan Vucevic is definitely part of the future. With him being a second-round pick, he got a 2-year contract. Now, he's going into his second year, so he'll be an expiring deal. He would be, so this is kind of a prove-it year for Tristan Vucevic. Now, long-term, will the Wizards end up re-signing into an extension? I think so. Look at his age, look at his capabilities. He's a 7-footer who, again, is projected to be a rim protector who can definitely spread the floor. But for the sake of depth, you definitely go out there and get Donovan Clingan at number 2. But there's another guy I'm looking at, Matas Bazilis. He's a guy I'm very, very, very high on. I think he's a guy that you definitely have to take a look at, because he's athletic, he's versatile. Yeah, his offensive game, especially his 3-point shot, is something that he needs to develop further and get better at. Defensively, he could get better, but he's not too bad. He's a very solid defender. He's athletic. He's a guy who's going to attack the rim with power. He's going to posterize some people. So I'm very intrigued by Matas Bazilis, man. Zachary Sachet, would I be totally out on him? No. And I know that a lot of Wizards fans are definitely down on Zachary Sachet, and I get it. We have a lot of forwards, but here's the thing to really talk about when it comes to Zachary Sachet and whether he could be, because I'm going to be 100 with you guys. I like Donovan Clingan, even though he's been linked to Atlanta. He's been linked to Houston. He's been the Memphis Grizzlies like him. They're willing to trade up to get him. If we miss out on Alex Sarr, I'm going to say that the Washington Wizards are going to draft Zachary Sachet. Where would he fit? Easy. If you look at Bilal and Denny, if the Wizards move on from Kyle Kuzma, Denny can play the 4. So it's between Bilal or Zachary Sachet, which one you want to see as a 2 guard, because Sachet can play the 2. He played a 3, he played a 4. Versatility is the name of the game. And that's what this, Will Dawkins, Michael Winger, Travis Schlenk, now Troy Weaver, this front office, they like versatile guys. So, I'm not totally down on Zachary Sachet. I think that he could definitely be an asset in DC. He's projected to be a 3-and-D player. He can shoot the ball. He's very solid defensively. Now, there's areas he needs to work on defensively, but I definitely see him being a 3-and-D player in DC. So looking at a potential lineup at, with Jordan Poole at the point, maybe Bilal at the 2, or Zachary Sachet at the 2, Bilal at the 3, Denny at the 4, and we'll see at the 5, because I definitely think that we need to get a center in this draft. If it's not Donovan Clingan, maybe you try to trade back into the lottery, get Khalil Ware or Zach Edey, or at 26, you're looking at Yevis Messi out of Baylor. And he's a guy who's a rim protector, a more traditional big. And I think he could definitely fit the mold long term and definitely develop, because again, you guys look, we have Marvin Bagley III for 1 year, we got Rashawn Holmes for 1 year, and we got Tristan Vucevic. So, but long term, what is the long term outlook as far as the center position? You're looking at Tristan Vucevic and probably another player. So we definitely need to come out of this draft with another center, in my opinion. So Alex Sarr, there is a high chance he comes to DC. He wants to come here. We want him to come here. I mean, everybody's very high on Alex Sarr, and for good reason. He's a 7-footer who can stretch the floor. Now, Can his offensive game definitely needs to be tweaked. He's not a finished product. His 3-point shot is mid-range, putting the ball on the floor, playing with his back to the basket are all areas that he needs to work on. But you see the potential offensively. Defensively, I mean, he's swift on his feet. He's versatile. He's a rim protector. He's a good help protector. He is definitely a really good high-end defensive player. The offensive game is going to come with proper development, and we have that in place with Brian Keefe and company, with this front office, with their vision. I firmly believe that if Alex Sarr comes to the Wizards, they're going to get him there, man. They're going to develop him the way he needs to be developed. But if Atlanta grabs him with the number 1 overall pick, I firmly believe that the Washington Wizards, especially if you look at the connection between Risa Shea and Bilal Coulibaly, both being French players, and that's not the only French connection. Obviously, to Jean Salon, a guy who's slated anywhere from 8 to 15. He's another French player that we should definitely target if we trade back into the lottery. But I'm leaning towards Risa Shea as far as if I'm predicting what the Wizards are going to do. Because Donovan Clingan right now, Houston's looking at him, and Houston's looking to maybe trade the number 3 overall pick to Memphis at number 9, so Memphis could get Donovan Clingan, because I think he definitely fits with what they're trying to do in the immediate and in the future. And and it's very intriguing to see him in a tall lineup with Jaren Jackson Jr. That would definitely be very, very nasty in Memphis, man. But getting back to the Wiz kids, there's a high chance that Alex Sarr comes to DC, because again, from an organizational standpoint, do you necessarily want to make that move to draft a guy who doesn't want to go to your team? You still can. You hold all the cards, and Atlanta holds all the cards, but they could look at it like he doesn't want to come here, and there's other options. Risa Shea could be a player that could definitely contribute in Atlanta, because Atlanta is in a gray area. Do they trade Trae Young? Do they trade DeJounte Murray? You have the young core in Kobe Buffkin and Jalen Johnson to build upon. And I think Risa Shea, you combine him with Jalen Johnson and Kobe Buffkin, that's a nice young core in Atlanta. Clint Capella's on his way out. What do they have in a Conqueror? Is he a long-term piece? So there's a lot of questions with the Hawks. So, they very well could go Risa Shea. So, if Alex Sarr drops to the Wizards at 2, I'm gonna be very, very happy. But if they pick him, if the Atlanta Hawks pick him at number 1, if I'm a betting man, I'm gonna bet that the Wizards go Risa Shea. But they should definitely look at Donovan Clingan, because again, we need a rim protector, and he fits that mold. So we're gonna look at some coach additions that the Wizards made, and as new head coach Brian Keefe fills out the rest of his staff. But before we do, tonight's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. So I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to, right? But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers, every single one, with a boost or a bonus daily, every single day. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, everybody. Now, the Wizards did make a few additions to their coaching staff. So I'm going to put it up right now. They hired J.J. Outlaw and Adam Kaporn. Now, we're going to look at their background real quick. Now, looking at Outlaw, he's been an assistant coach since 2011, where he spent time with the Los Angeles Lakers from 2011 to 2016, the Memphis Grizzlies from 2016 to 2019, before going to the Cleveland Cavaliers. He's also from Columbia, Maryland, so he is a local product, and he played football for the Atlantic 10 Conference, which is now a CAA conference. The Atlantic 10 is more of a basketball powerhouse as far as Division I, but he did play football also in Villanova in Division I FCS. He was drafted in the NFL and played 2 years for the Philadelphia Eagles. Oh, Lord. But, I think he is definitely a solid addition to Brian Keefe's coaching staff. Now, the other gentleman to look at, Adam Kaporn, spent the last 3 years with the Brooklyn Nets organization, starting as a Long Island Nets coach in the G League for the 2021 to 2022 season before going to the Brooklyn Nets staff itself. He also has experience at St. Mary's, where he actually went to college, and the Basketball Australia Center of Excellence. So both of these guys have good experience, man. They're definitely solid additions to Brian Keefe's coaching staff as he continues to build his coaching staff. So Definitely he's going to add a lot more pieces to his coaching staff. But like I said, I think they're solid additions, in my opinion. They're definitely solid additions because Brian Keefe he's the guy now. He's the new head coach. And, with him in tandem with David Vanderpool, another guy who's been linked to head coaching openings, I think we're going to see a very, very solid coaching staff, man. So I'm very happy with the move. So definitely comment below. Let me know what you guys are thinking. Do you like the moves? What type of coaches would you like to see brought into Washington to help boost up head coach Brian Keefe? So, all right, everybody. It is the NBA draft eve, right? Tomorrow night is round 1 of the NBA draft. So the NBA draft is actually 2 days now. It's kind of like the NFL where they have multiple days. Round 1 is tomorrow night at 8 o'clock and round 2 the same time on Thursday night. So definitely watch the draft. And tomorrow we are going live. So as soon as number 26 is in the books, subject to any trade back, I don't think we're going to trade after 26, but after we make our 26 overall selection, man, I will be going live with you guys to celebrate, laugh, or cry, depending on who we get, and celebrate new additions to the Washington Wizards young core. So definitely rock with your boy tomorrow night because we are going live right after pick number 26. So again, I appreciate you guys, man. I appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to watch, to listen, to talk ball with me. Like I said, this channel doesn't grow without you guys, so I definitely appreciate you guys. So I definitely look forward to chopping up with you guys tomorrow night to celebrate the new additions to the Washington Wizards young core. So hail to the Wizards and peace. See you guys tomorrow night.